Today I'm going to show you how to set up baby box turtles. So this is an adult female who is not very happy with me, and to be fair to her, she just laid eggs last night or the night before. So she is still getting all of her energy back, eating lots of food, whatever. But the reason I have her inside and not in her outdoor pen is I just wanted to show her shell and the importance of raising these babies correctly. I saw online a really good quote that I want to start using. You want to raise your babies like they're grapes, not like they're raisins, so they get nice, smooth shells. I haven't had this girl her whole life. I bought her as an adult, and I'm not sure how clearly it's coming up, but it's not as pyramided as you'll see in a lot of like tortoises and stuff, just because box turtles tend not to be that extreme, but you can definitely see a little bit of the pyramiding and just imperfect shell formation from her. So we're going to go over how to raise box turtles so that doesn't happen. So just a few things before I get right into how I'm setting these box turtles up. I just wanted to show what the eggs tend to look like before hatching. So first off, I'm not going to touch the ones that are going to hatch just because I don't want to bother the baby inside. But we have this one here. Sorry. And it's a little bit blurry on camera, but that is a very, at least to me, very clearly infertile egg. You can see it's all dented. It has a yellow coloration. Now, why I'm showing this is because there's a little bit of like a translucent blue color to these eggs. And when they start turning that color, again, I'm not going to touch it, but the eggshell is very permeable and very soft. It's almost as if the baby's getting ready to be able to just cut through that with their egg tooth. So that is something that some people might think that these eggs are infertile because they don't have that nice glossy white to them. But those are in fact fertile eggs, and the babies I'm about to show you came from the same clutch, and then these guys should be coming out any day now. And then this one egg in particular here, it's not coming across too clearly, but it is absolutely massive. So I'm kind of excited to see what baby's in there. Hopefully nice, big, healthy one. So again, this yellow coloration, all indented. It'll probably explode if I let it get any more mature, versus there's still some white on these ones. It's a little bit translucent. And again, that's just the baby kind of preparing to come out as the eggshell kind of softens up. And then all the babies that we've gotten, they kind of cut through that section with their egg tooth, which I'll show you here in a second. So the next thing is you get your baby box turtles. So if you have a group or a pair or whatever of your box turtles, inevitably you'll get some eggs, and then if you incubate them, you'll get babies. So these guys range from 2 days old to, I think our oldest here is 4 days old. And the reason they're not set up yet is because they came out with their yolk sac still attached. So I'm going to pick one up here and kind of show you the development of the yolk sac. So that one there, you could kind of see is almost fully developed. So these are all incubated for female. She will be ready just to get set up. Now let's get another one here. Okay, this is a good example. That little pink thing there, no need to panic. Just set them up on some moist paper towels or some kind of moist substrate. Not substrate, sorry. You don't want it to stick to it. Something that's not going to stick to it, but is moist, and they'll absorb it over a couple days. These guys all came out a little bit early, which is why they have their little yolk sacs on them. But they came out quite large. I don't think I have pictures of that. If I do, I'll attach it to this part of the video. But they all absorbed it and are doing great now. And then the ones that are fully absorbed, those are the ones that are going into their setup that I'm going to show you. Okay, I'm gonna get right into the setup and kind of explain why I do things the way I do and kind of the idea behind it. But I wanna be very clear before I even start that. This is not the only way to raise box turtles. That would be very arrogant to say. I am following the water method of raising them for their first little bit. Most of these will be sold off as pets. And this is the method that Chris Leone at Garden State Tortoise used, and that is the one I have found that works the best in raising these fragile animals. So again, not the only way. People have 100 different ways to do this. This is just the way I've done because I've seen other people do it, and it's worked well for me. Excuse the crowded desk. This is normally a crochet station, but it works well because it's well lit to kind of show you guys how I'm going to set this up. So this is a bin. I just got it from Walmart. Get it from any hardware store. And it needs to be high though. So when you're looking for a bin, it might not come across fully in this video, but it needs to be relatively high so that there's space between your heating element and the turtles. And that allows for temperature gradients in the enclosure. And we need a lid because this is what's going to create the closed chamber aspect of it. The air circulation is going to be right there, but then there's going to be a heat lamp and UV lamp on top of that. And that's going to create a nice humid environment. Remember, we want to raise these guys like they are grapes, not like raisins, so that they grow nice shells and they're really well developed. So I just cut that out with a box cutter. I know it looks absolutely beautiful. If you were ever using this for an animal that might come in contact with the edges of the plastic or the screen, you'd want to do a better job at actually cutting it so that there's no sharp edges or anything. But these box turtles will never come in contact with that. They'll only be here for until they're ready, until they're past their fragile state, and then they'll find their forever homes. So again, this is for box turtles, or I guess some of my tortoises I'll raise like this as well, but just for animals that won't come in contact with that area. And again, you can make it look a lot nicer. Eventually I will just staple that down rather than using this black tape on top because it is not aesthetic. But for today, just because I needed to get it done, that is what we came up with. All right. So next step. So I just took the lid off here to give a little bit of a better view. I just put water in there and it's just a little bit dirty from some of the hides that are going to be going into here. So I know that Chris at Garden State Tortoise uses a lot of like fake plants to give his boxies some security. I like to use some more, and not that there's anything wrong with using fake plants, but just some naturalistic stuff. So this is all just some small pieces of driftwood, some twigs, whatever, some bark that I got from the beach, and then just made sure it was all safe for the box turtles. And what this does is it does give them a way to get out of the water if need be. And there's really no method here. That big piece there, the only thing I'd be concerned about is a turtle getting lodged under it. So I'll just keep an eye open for that. And if I find that they are doing that, I'll just take that one out. It's not necessary. And by big one, I mean this one right here, just so you know. So this is the approximate setup that I have here. And then we're going to put the lid on top. And then we have a dual functioning lamp that has UVB and heat coming out of it. So UVB and heat, and it's going to go on top. So let me show you. All right, so this is what I meant by that dual function one, because it fits just perfectly and nicely on top of this screen top. And the first thing you might be thinking is about the coil UV bulb. And I know for a while I was concerned about those as well, but there's been tons and tons of trials now with young turtles and tortoises, and those coil bulbs, for turtles and tortoises at least, seem to work fine. And as these guys get upgraded, if I were to hold them back, I would upgrade to kind of the more strip style of Arcadia UVB lights. But this works completely fine. And again, this is completely mimicking Chris over at Garden State Tortoises. I've been following him for forever now, and I try to replicate the way that he raises and breeds his box turtles because he has so much success and it's working really well for me. And he uses these for his as well. And I have, you know, all the trust that it works because it has worked well for so long now. So again, this is what I use. And I'm just going to get into a quick little clip here about some tips about raising these guys, because when they are babies, they are the most fragile that they ever will be. So I'll bring you back here in 1 second. So a few very quick things, or at least I'll try to make them quick. I tend to ramble on here. These are Gulf Coast box turtles. So for the first little bit of their life, they will be highly, highly carnivorous, and they actually take that into adulthood more than other box turtles. So I'll be starting these guys on a mixture of pellet foods, and then things like chopped up earthworms they'll take really, really well. The next thing you might be wondering is about the water and water cleanliness. So as we get more and more turtles in here, obviously it's going to get more dirty. So I'll be doing daily or every other day water changes. So once there's more turtles, definitely daily. Right now with just a couple, it'll be probably every other day that we'll be changing the water. And you need to do that to make sure that they don't get sick, because this is the water they drink. They're kind of living in it. They can exit it, but for the most part, like, this is their environment. So that clean water is super necessary. And I tend to clean it after a feeding session. So if I'm using something like the Reptomin pellets, I might put that directly in the water, but then what's gonna happen is it's gonna cloud up the water. Whatever's not eaten, it'll get all gross, it might get moldy. So right after a feeding is a perfect time to change out water in this solution. And you'll notice these guys are really, really tiny, and they're out of the water, no problem. So this isn't much water. It takes literally no effort just to take out your little hides, whether it be like what I'm doing here, small pieces of wood or some fake plants, and then just dump the water and put some fresh stuff in. So that's the first thing. You got to make sure you're cleaning the water in this setup. It is not a completely hands-off approach. You do need to do that. And then the other thing is this is not just a permanent setup. I breed these turtles, and then the end result is they get sold here in Canada as pet animals. So if you are someone who has a turtle that is just your pet, you're gonna have it forever, you might wanna raise your turtle like this for the first, 6 months to a year of its life before you transition it to a more permanent setup. But this is far from a permanent setup. And if I was keeping them as a pet, I'd probably only have one animal in here. But these animals are only going to be here for until they're past that fragile state, and I know they're going to make a good pet for someone. So again, this is not a permanent setup for any box turtle, and it's super important that you have something kind of prepared and you know what you're going to do with your box turtle. These guys really do thrive outside. My Gulf Coast stay out for the entire spring, summer, and fall season before I bring them inside and artificially hibernate them. So again, they do best outside, but if you're going to keep them inside, make sure you have something ready for them because they do grow surprisingly fast, and you need to be prepared when you're keeping animals like turtles and tortoises as pets. They start off really cute and small. You'll see in the thumbnail of this video, one of my adult females, one of these guys was just the size of her head. So again, these guys start off really small, but they do get to a decent size, and you need to be ready for that. If there's any questions you might have about raising, breeding, or otherwise box turtle questions, I'll do my best to kind of address them. Just leave a comment and I can make a video back to you to kind of address it and talk about what I do here. And again, I just want to emphasize that people do things differently, and there's probably 100 different ways to care for these animals. And if you are in a state where you're not allowed to have box turtles because they're native, make sure you know your laws. You cannot just take these animals out of the wild. There's lots of captive breeding happening, and make sure to support wild populations in their recovery efforts. Captive bred hatchlings in the States are incredibly cheap. Here in Canada, they cost a little bit more due to our laws. Anyway, thanks for watching. Any questions, please let me know. And as always, I appreciate any engagement into the video, whether that be a like, comment, or subscription. Thank you again.